Today, we're going to look at a hand featuring Garrett Adelstein, one of my favorite poker players who gets in there, battles hard, and applies a lot of pressure, standing in his way. Today is Robbi who is best known for somehow, some way, calling down with Jack High. Let's see if she can get the best of him in this hand.
Sorry, you missed your chance, man. That was a great opportunity. What's going on, buddy?
I know.
That was the spot.
I know.
I had to take it if you weren't. She may beat my brains in every hand we play, but I can count on someone else.
We're playing 25, 50, 100 with a $200 straddle. Schwan on the button raises it up with the Jack 4 suited. They must be playing the Jack 4 game today. They don't play 7-2 anymore. They only play Jack 4. Over round 2, Garrett in the big blind with King 6 of spades. He decides to bump it up. This is certainly a loose, aggressive, battling play, but I really don't mind it. I mean, especially if you think your opponent's raising a little bit too wide from the later positions. So sure, King 6 suited is going to play well enough. Over to Robbi in the straddle. I think this is a pretty easy spot to put in a re-raise. This is a scenario where when we're playing only $30-something thousand deep, which is effectively 150 big blinds, I think you just want to re-raise and try to play a big pot against Garrett. But she calls. All right. Jack 4 gets out of the way. Let's go to the flop.
I don't want to talk to you.
Pair of sixes for Garrett. Robbi's ace king, no good anymore.
I'm stuck. Oh, no.
Robbi makes the call.
Flop comes 8-6-4. Garrett throws out a $3,000 bet, a little bit less than half pot. And Robbi has a pretty tough spot in the scenario with the ace-king high because Garrett is the type of player who's going to 3-bet with way more than just the best hands. The problem, though, is that a lot of the hands that will 3-bet in this spot are going to be suited connected type hands or ace-x suited or king-x suited. And those actually connect pretty well with this flop. So I think with the king of hearts, you probably have to call the flop or the ace of hearts because we have a backdoor flush draw. But without a backdoor draw in this scenario, I think you're probably just supposed to be a little bit cautious and let it go, especially since you know Garrett's the type of player who really, really, really loves to apply aggression. Even if you know Garrett likes to apply aggression, though, you can't just go around calling down with ace high on these middle card boards when a lot of his 3-betting range pre-flop is going to connect decently well with it. But whatever. Garrett bets 3,000, Robbi calls. Let's head on to the turn.
King would be devastating for her.
That was pretty bad.
Double barrel from Garrett, and this hand's over.
The turn brings the 3 of diamonds, and Garrett makes an interesting bet, firing out a little bit less than half pot. Again, ace-king is a strong pre-flop hand, but post-flop in this scenario, it's not so good. What would you do in this scenario? Take a second, think about it, and let me know in the comment section down below if you would fold, call, or maybe even put in a raise.
That's not good enough.
What do I know?
I think this is a pretty rough spot for Robbi because she loses to all decently strong value hands. And the thing is that Garrett, in this scenario, could have a lot of random value hands that are going for thin value, either an 8 or a 6 or an overpair, right? All these hands are going to certainly continue betting. The tough thing is that Garrett will also continue betting with a whole lot of bluffs. Any hand containing a 7, any hand containing a 5, and he will randomly have king 5 suited, king 7 suited, ace 7 suited, etc. Those hands are also going to bet. That said, Robbi does actually block a lot of those logical 3-bets pre-flop that would bet the flop and then bet the turn. So maybe Garrett doesn't actually have a lot of those in this spot. I think it's probably just time to let it go. I mean, the problem is even if you spike an ace or a king, if Garrett keeps blasting it, you could easily just be in terrible shape and then really, really forced to pay off. But, you know, you have the read that Garrett likes to bluff. way, way, way too often, perhaps with any sort of overcards, then maybe the plan is to call the turn and then call the river.
Robbi makes the call. And the river's an ace. She hits her 3-outer. Wow. A king would have been devastating for her, as she would have lost a monster pot. Now she's suddenly going to win a huge pot. And at this point, if you're Garrett, you've got to realize, you've got to think, okay, I've got the worst hand. Am I now bluffing at it? And he is. Robbi has the king of hearts in her hand, though.
The river brings the ace of hearts, which is a disaster for Garrett. It's almost as if Robbi knew what cards were coming. In this scenario, I think at this point Garrett realizes his 6 is very unlikely to be good. Because if you think about Robbi's range in this scenario to call the flop and call the turn, it's probably a lot of hands containing a pair, like pocket 9s. Maybe a hand like 8-7 suited if she decides to splash for that preflop. She could also even have a hand like ace-queen or ace-king that just got there, but has to be worried about the flush, right? So this is a situation where, depending on what Garrett's range looks like, I think it might be very fine and good to turn hands like this into a bluff, especially if you think your opponent's going to overfold with stuff like a random ace-x that got there, or perhaps hands like pocket 9. So Garrett loads it up. He goes for the all-in. I like it. Let's see if it works this time.
How much is that?
It's everything you've got.
All you got.
Exactly. All you got. Pot was $25,000. It's $19,375 to call. She's getting a little bit more than 2-1. He's basically got a flush or nothing, right? She has the king of hearts. I thought the hand was over on the turn.
I call.
Robbi calls.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Nice. Good call.
No way.
Good hand.
If that king wasn't a heart, I wouldn't have. Wow. Thank you.
Is that what you thought she had after she gave you the speech on the turn?
Mm-hmm.
After much deliberation, Robbi makes what I think is actually a very, very easy call. In this situation, she has to be good something like 32% of the time to profit. And when you river the top pair and you block the flushes with the king of hearts, you just have to find a call here. Yeah, you're going to lose a decent amount of time, but Garrett is the type of player who is going to overbluff in these scenarios most of the time because his opponents tend to overfold, and most people in most games tend to overfold in situations like this. This was a weird hand. Look, I know everybody wants to ask, was Robbi cheating in this hand? I don't think so in this scenario. I highly doubt that if there was any way to cheat in these hands, you could see that the river would bring an ace. That said, if you could see the river bring an ace, well, then I guess you'd stick around to the river and then not fold. Interesting scenario, interesting spot. As more and more information comes out about what may or may not have been going on in the back rooms of Hustler Casino Live, it makes you start to wonder. Protect yourself before you wreck yourself. Good luck, have fun, enjoy the games. I'll talk to all of you next time.